How to learn if you have attention deficit disorder or ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. These individuals with this disorder, they really don't learn well in a group. You go to some of these big schools where there's 500 kids in a freshman English or math class, forget it. If you have attention deficit disorder, you're not learning. These online classes where you sit and listen to someone ramble on, blah, 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 blah. You'll tune out after about 5-10 seconds. You won't know what's going on if you have attention deficit disorder. You're not going to sit there and listen. That's not how people with attention deficit disorder learn. You may have been smart enough where you made it through high school just by flash learning. But by the time you got to college, there's so much work, there's so much going on. You really have to focus in order to learn. Learning for attention deficit disorder must be interactive. What do I mean by that? Well, working with a tutor one-on-one, that works. Interacting with a computer where you press a button, it gives you a response, then you give a response back, that works. And doing questions, and I'll get more into that later. You do a question, you give an answer, you look to see if you got it right or wrong, and then you go back and you read the answer. So a key feature here, if you want to learn, if you have attention deficit disorder and you want to learn, is questions, interactive learning, getting a tutor, studying in a study group. For 30 years now, I've dealt with people with the bar exam, medical board prep, CPA, certified public accountant, financial planner, nuclear physicist, police lieutenant license, Series 6, 7, insurance exams, SAT, ACT, GED. I've done it all with patients. I've gotten everyone through. Here's another key thing you must do. Schedule your time. If you have attention deficit disorder, you will procrastinate. So you make it written in stone. If at 7 p.m. you sit down and study. Or on Saturday morning when you wake up, if it's off, you have to study and do it like a job. You have to schedule the time and put in the time. And when you sit down to study, everything's like a test situation. If you're not willing to sit down and be as intensely focused as if you're taking an exam, then don't study. Get away. Every time you sit down and study, you're in an exam situation. It's a plane flying overhead, but the reason I say that is your mind must be trained to take exams. So when you're in an exam situation, that same mentality of an exam situation must be when you're studying. So when you go into the exam, it's not new. You always must have the mentality of being in an exam. You're always pressured for time, and you can't kind of know it. Either you know it or you don't. Either you read it or you don't. Either you're intensely trying or you're not trying at all. Here's another thing. People get superstitious. They say, I can only study in my living room. I can only study in this one corner of the library. I can only study in the kitchen. No. An exam situation will always be different. You can never be certain where you'll take an exam, what the conditions will be, if you'll hear kids playing, if someone will be sneezing, someone will be eating a candy, you'll hear a clock ticking, someone will be ruffling, someone will be coughing. So, you can study anywhere and constantly change your study location. It's counterintuitive. Oh, always study in the same quiet place. No. You have to learn to adapt. And you'll get superstitious. Oh, I can only study or take exams in my bedroom or my kitchen, and I'll be freaked out in the exam. No. Always break up where you study so you learn to adapt to different situations. Bar none. Here's the most important thing. If you have attention deficit disorder, you're not going to be able to sit there and read a book. You're not going to watch a video. You're not going to listen to a lecture. What you can do, questions, answers. Questions, answers. And then mark off the ones you get wrong and go back and do them over and over till you get them all right. Learn by questions. Even if you know nothing about the topic, start by looking at questions and answering them and reading the answers. And when you get it wrong, mark it. When you go back the second time, Hopefully you'll get it right. And by the third or fourth time, you'll have all the questions right. Here's another key point. Read the question carefully. Remember, the most, the least, which one is not. Read the questions carefully if you have attention deficit disorder. Here's another key point. Never go back. When you read a question, do the answer. And in a test situation, never go back. Never think, oh, I'll go back and figure it out later. I'm rushed for time. Put everything you have into that question and then move on. You're not going back. It'll distract your mind. It'll defocus you. You can only focus on one thing at a time. Do the best job you can with that question, your best answer, then move on. Never go back and change. And if all else fails, you don't know what's going on, always put the same letter. I prefer C, which is C for correct. So get that in your head. Another thing, when you're in the study mode, keep your body physically fit. Work out every day. I don't care if you do a half an hour of squats, push-ups, planks in your room, but do a half an hour to an hour a day of exercise. Do something. You'll focus better. You'll be too restless. And a body out of shape is a body that can't think clearly. Someone with attention deficit disorder, if you're in this trying to study for a test, you won't be able to socialize. It's very difficult, because once you socialize, you won't be able to turn it off when you go back to study. You say, oh, I'll go meet people for 2 hours. It's very difficult. You can study in a group, but socializing prior to exam, very difficult. Limit it. You won't regroup, meaning your mind will be distracted in the socialization. Another key point, caffeine. It helps. Caffeine helps. So tea, coffee, soda, it helps. Also, drugs help. It's another lecture, but stimulants and amphetamines help you with attention deficit disorder. And when you mix them with caffeine, it helps even more. Set goals. I'll sit down. Set goals of questions or material. Don't set goals of time. Here's another component. If you can't recite it after you've read it, or you've done a question, or teach it to someone else, you don't know it. So always try and recite it to yourself or someone else. Always study with a computer near you. So if you have to look something up, definitions are key. If you don't know core definitions, you won't be able to master the material. Remember, when you're doing the questions, they tell you what you know and what you don't know. They're just as important. Don't keep restudying things you already know. Keep going over things you don't know. You can do this if you're studying for the bar, the MCATs, the medical boards. In the past, attention deficit disorder has beaten you up. Don't get yourself down, and always have the attitude, I will pass this no matter what. Stay strong. Keep a positive attitude. Don't ever say to yourself, oh, I'm not going to pass. You will pass. Just study. You got this far, you'll pass. I treat a lot of patients with attention deficit disorder, and also I go into this more in-depthly in my book, Tales from the Couch, on Amazon.com. Thank you, Dr. Mark Agresti. Ciao.